We're about to go somewhere odd now. Times to rise and elevation starts to drop down. Our little secret, don't kiss and tell, you're so bad. I'll probably see you in hell. Welcome to hell, baby. This is podcast hell.
I can't believe I booked you.
We did it.
Your schedule, man.
This year's been really fucking hard.
It's like booking you was like booking Bono, but with way less fans.
Or money.
or money.
Yeah, really.
Positive impact on my podcast. But still,
or the world.
I'm still very glad that you're here.
I'm honored. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm sorry. I'm more just annoying than busy, I think.
I mean, are you just like, is that like shooting schedules or?
Yeah. I was on a documentary project for most of this year. And I just never knew when I was traveling. Like I could be, we were shooting a documentary about Shaq. And he just bought Reebok. And so he's relaunching Reebok basketball for the first time in 14 years because that's the sneaker company that signed him as a rookie.
Wait, the documentary is about him buying Reebok or about him?
About him buying Reebok specifically.
Okay.
To the extent when Netflix was like, I don't give a shit about DJ Diesel. We want to talk about sneakers. So it's like, that sounds like a less interesting story, but we'll tell it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Remember when you remember when Shaq broke the backboard?
Yeah, I've watched montages of that 4,000 times for the edit of this series. So yes, I remember it, I could reenact the entire thing for you.
It's pretty sick.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. Yeah.
It's one of the great all-time highlights.
Yes.
I remember who was when he was on the Magic. It was him and Penny Hardaway. Yep. Penny Hardaway clips. Like I'm not a huge NBA guy, but I will just randomly go like I'm gonna watch like 10 guys as like best of.
Yes.
Penny Hardaway's best of is fucking insane.
Penny Hardaway was a great basketball player.
Great basketball player. Could have been like the next Jordan without all the injuries and shit.
Yeah.
But he oh my God, Gordon. He tried to get a little chomp there.
Penny Hardaway fan down here.
Yeah, he really is. He's getting pumped on. You know what he's pumped on right now? This is great. Also, like podcasting for the audience that can't see him. Yeah. Us just staring at our dicks being like, let me tell you else what he does. No, it's this rug. This rug does a thing where he gets very happy.
It's a good rug.
Not like dog boner happy, but just, happy to be a dog.
They can't see, but I know.
Did he have one?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, you're selling it correctly. There was only one erection in this room right now.
Well, 2.
Yeah.
He was left out.
Is it the dog or the rug for you?
For me, it's the rug.
Yeah.
I mean, this was like the transformation of my life was buying this rug.
A good rug, man. Like this is a good rug.
This is a good rug.
This feels nice. Yeah.
I took this rug from my friend's house.
Nice.
Not physically. Like I was like, tell me your exact rug.
Yep.
Send me the link. Bought it.
Awesome.
This was like when I started making money at my job. I was like couches, rug, walking thing, and a standing desk. Those are my 4 purchases.
Standing desk fan.
Changes it.
I stand all day.
Yeah.
And I can't, the idea of sitting down is nonsensical to me.
Yeah.
This, stupid. I feel the least productive I've ever felt.
You feel really bad
100%
sitting down?
Yeah. I'm going to be changing positions. I don't even remember how to do this. I stand in the car at this point. I'm just like on the wheel, ass up. I love it.
You had the seats taken out? If you would feel more comfortable standing and doing jumping jacks during the podcast, don't.
That's more for the crotch height camera angle than it will be for the standing.
The crotch height, I'm a little weird. It's like, it feels low. But then when you look at it, it makes sense.
This looks right because you're basically the lens is at eye line.
Yeah.
So you're actually doing a great job. It's if I stand up where it gets fucking weird.
It'll be weird. Yeah. Then it's straight to your balls.
All ball. Yeah.
Which is, that's fine if it becomes this type of podcast. I didn't know this is what I was exchanging texts with you for the last 6 months would be like, just you showing your dick off on my podcast. But bro, that's why there's no fucking plan.
Yes.
If that's where it goes, that's where it goes.
You got to follow the thread wherever it takes you.
We can talk about, we could talk about whatever. We could talk about, you're not a sports guy, are you?
I am a sports guy.
Oh, great. What are your teams?
I mean, this is not a sentence that's aged well, but I'm a New York Giants fan. That's like, football is like my big sport.
Yeah.
I followed basketball more in the last year or two, specifically because of the documentary, just because I was living in that world. Angel Reese is a Reebok athlete, so I was following WNBA a lot this year. But I just like watching people perform and compete at the highest levels athletically. In general, like I enjoy it. But football is my game.
You're like, that's why I'm a Giants fan. I love watching people at the highest level.
Yes.
Fucking
beat my team.
Eat it. Well, I'm an Eagles fan.
Oh, yeah.
And so I owe you a thank you for giving us your best player for no fucking reason.
The most remarkable. I cannot believe they let him go for like $1 million. Like
Very
they had
weird.
the contract.
Very weird move.
Super strange.
Yeah, like it's. I have one of my friends is a Giants fan, and it's like I can't even really make fun of him for it because it's like also a lot of my family's Washington fans, and it's like both franchise. I guess Washington's better now, but.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like it's almost not fun at a certain point.
Yeah, we've been too embarrassingly bad for too long to like it's not like Jets. It's still fun to beat up on them because they make these really big dumb swings,
like today.
Sure, for example, like that's firing crazy. Your defensive-minded head coach
and the defense played
best
great
defense in the NFL.
Yeah, dude, it
wasn't his choice to bring in, I mean, probably had a big say in bringing in Rodgers, but he didn't want to bring in Nathaniel Hackett as an offensive coordinator.
No.
He didn't he had this everything was around. How do you not fire the general manager before you fire the head coach?
Well, the Hackett thing is weird because he's sucked in
many roles.
3 places in a row.
Yes.
And they're like, well, Rodgers likes him.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, I don't know. Like, that seems like a top-down problem.
Yeah.
There.
Like most things.
Yeah.
There's a trickle-down culture. It's true with every production company I've ever worked at. It's true with comedy clubs that we work at. It's true with sports franchises. It's a trickle-down culture.
Yeah.
If you're nuts at the top, if you're making weird decisions at the top, that trickles down and that impacts everything else.
It was very nice of you to say that I work at comedy clubs. I appreciate that.
I meant to say children's birthday parties and dive bars is what I was trying.
You meant to say improv theaters where I did a Herald with somebody 12 years ago? Now, every time I do work at a theater or work at a comedy club, it's because the person owning the comedy club specifically owes me. Like, I pulled them out of a sewer that was about to have a gas leak. It was some sort of life. Like, they just owe me in life.
It's nice that there's merit behind all the choices they make, you know? That's what makes me, after working so hard for over a decade at this craft, it's nice to know that they're choosing me because I pushed them out of way of a bus, you know?
I've said for a while, like, the only way I'm going to, like, really make it, like, in terms of, like, comedy stuff will be if there's some sort of, like, terrorist attack and I happen to be there and I foil it by getting shot. And it's somehow on camera, me going like, it's for the red, white, and blue. Like, if I do something, then I'm in a coma for a long time. And, like, the media's like, we just found out this guy's actually got an Instagram page with some very mediocre clips on his podcast.
Sure.
That might be the only... Even then, I'd probably not get enough followers to...
I would be honored to be one of the mediocre clips on that Instagram page.
I think we'll find a way.
Okay.
I think we'll find a way.
Is this the most you've ever talked sports with somebody on your podcast while they were wearing Lululemon? Is that,
are you wearing Lululemons right now?
Baby, this is what I do.
No, those aren't. That's Under Armour, right?
Pants. These are
you're wearing Lululemon pants.
These are stretchy yoga pants.
Now, is that? Are you seeing how long it'll take me to call you gay, or did you?
I thought I'm too uncomfortable with how much I know about football publicly to not take myself down a masculine peg or two.
What do you? I always, because I have a lot of friends back home who can talk about only football.
Yes,
and like I'll be like, "How are your kids?" They're like, "Who?" Like they don't know what.
You mean Saquon?
Yeah. So I've got that wing of my life, and then I've got my comedy friends. Very few can talk football.
Yeah.
And even if they can, they feel like a sense of like embarrassment if we go too long. Like, oh, we should probably be, talking about how the industry sucks at some point. I'm like, I think most people just want to talk about football.
Yeah.
Like if I just turn this into this actually used to be a football podcast.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And I just stopped.
I can do it all day and I'm not embarrassed by it, but also I'm very aware of what I look and sound like. Like I also read books. So like it's like I have to create a multi-dimensional facade.
Sure. You're going to have to like make references to like Cormac McCarthy books if we talk about cover 2 defense for too long.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're going to have to throw them off your scent a little bit. Yeah, I mean, that's cool. I mean, look, I think I'm getting more comfortable just being like, if somebody wants to talk sports, we'll fucking talk sports.
Sure.
Like
yeah.
I've had 2 people on the podcast. One guy like runs a sports network. So when he was on, we did nothing but sports talk.
Right.
And half of my listeners were like, what the fuck is this? I got complaints.
That's incredible.
But fuck them.
And
fuck you.
Yeah, hey, listen. I'm not that guy. So this is where we turn it all around right here. But also, fuck you. Go ahead, please.
Let me tell you what the brilliant conceit of this podcast was originally that I abandoned.
Hit me.
So it was called Bring in the Backups, and every episode was about a different backup quarterback from the 90s. And I would evaluate his life off the field as well as his terrible career.
Nothing says we're living in a niche entertainment industry more than...
Where I'm like, you know what? I need to corner the market on Charlie Batch and Rick Meyer. If anybody Googles those guys and my shit pops up first. Yeah, that was my like pandemic thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the backup quarterback guy.
Yeah. And how did that work out for you?
I made it 50 episodes, and I was like, "This is so much fucking work."
Yes,
because it was like I was writing a fucking script.
Yeah.
For these podcasts, and I was even doing it like every 2 weeks, and it was too much. And then I was like, "I'll just fucking talk shit like this."
Just have
nothing.
Yes,
way easier.
I did the same thing during the pandemic, as I developed a couple like documentary style podcast ideas because that's what I do. That's what I love. I like teaching people in the world and making them laugh, and I always want that lens. So I wanted meat on the bone. If I don't give a shit about me enough to just fucking talk and every goddamn day into a microphone and just have an opinion about things. I find that I don't know who wants that. Clearly, many people.
Well, that's all as you're just describing my podcast. Like,
I don't want to be some piece of shit with a new couch. And a dumb dog.
My wife told me, she was like, your podcast is basically your video diary with a person sitting next to you. I was like, yeah, that's actually exactly what it is.
Isn't that all of them? Like,
yeah, of course.
We can only all hope to have a podcast that reaches Shane Gillis level notoriety for the wrong reasons. But I was the same way. I was like, I wanted to dive into something, and I made a couple concepts for podcasts and did a couple sample episodes, and I was like, this is so much more work than I want to do.
Yeah.
Unless people are paying. People pay me money to make that. Why am I doing this for free for nobody?
It's hard. Like, I mean, this is what I say is like when for me, it's this or stand up.
Right.
And I love stand up. I probably like stand up still more than doing this, but it's fucking hard. You're on the road. Yeah. I'm not doing mics anymore. That's fucking a waste of time. Yeah. So I'm just like, when I do this and I clip stuff, like, even if it gets like 1,000 views I'm like, okay, that's like if I went to a show and 40 people were in the audience and they don't remember my name afterwards, like, it's better than 1,000 people are seeing it.
100.
I'm like, this is like an open mic.
Yeah.
Like, basically, we're just fucking around.
Yes.
Yeah.
I also should asterisk and say that my mentality about why I didn't want to do a long form documentary podcast at that time wasn't necessarily correct. It was just my reaction to my Charlie Batch style format.
What was your sample podcast about?
I had a couple, but the one that I put the most work into was called The Idiot Investor, because like everybody was buying Bitcoin and crypto and learning about stocks because we all got $600 from the government, so we were all fucking Warren Buffett all of a sudden.
Sure.
I wanted to make a documentary about all the stupid mistakes, because I was doing the same thing. I was deep into the. I've studied the crypto shit for a while, and I was really interested in it. So I was interested enough about all of this stuff and learning about it while the whole world was doing the same thing, because nobody could go anywhere. So I wanted to talk about all the dumb mistakes that everybody makes.
Yeah,
as like here's one takeaway. You learn one thing, but here's how stupid everybody is at the same time.
Sure.
And it was fun, and I pitched it to a couple podcast networks and production companies with my sample episode. And everyone was like, when you build an audience, we'd love to have you, but nobody wants to build the audience. They want you to do it organically. And I was like, I'm not going to sit here. I'm already sitting by myself staring at a computer. I'm not going to like give myself more projects. And I was making a documentary series for Netflix at the time about the future. And it was just so much more interesting to me than my dumb Robin Hood mistakes. So I didn't have the fire.
Here's what you needed. You needed to have a less successful career like me, and you would have done it. Because I had a dumb idea, and I was like, I'll try that for a year and a half. Yeah. Let's just see how
That's the only way you actually find gold, is by failing over. I went to film school, and I always tell people that film school is only value is that you get to fail in a vacuum. You get to spend 4 years being so bad at making shit, and nobody sees it, but professors whose job is to make you better. Then that's the only real value. You don't need it. It's not important.
When I was in New York, I was at this theater. Like, I moved to New York when I was 22, and I'd never really done comedy or stand-up before I moved to New York. And I got into this place where, like, people would like shit on it. They'd be like, we don't get paid to fucking do comedy here. We have to pay for classes. And I was like, we're all terrible at comedy.
Yeah.
And we show up on like a Tuesday night and there's 50 people waiting for us to perform.
Yeah.
And we're all bad.
Yeah.
Like, that is the value of it. So, like, and still to this day, like, I hang out with people from those years, and they're like, nah, that place was we spent all this money, we wasted all our time. I'm like, where the fuck else were you going to be doing comedy?
Yeah.
Like, where else? Who's going to give you a stage?
Who wants this?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who, like, fucking did take off from that place. And then you see them in interviews, and they never throw the guy a bone because they hate the owner, which is hilarious.
Yes.
But, like, I do feel like, yeah, like, I don't know. I feel like that prepped me well for doing this because I like doing this, and I also, like, if it doesn't work out, it's fine. It's just a chance to hang out with people.
100%. This is like my problem now, and I have like a bunch of like I'm just wrapped in this documentary. I'm like, what's the thing that I want to do with my time when nobody else hires me for a while, which is the
rapidly approaching.
Correct. I'm not rapidly. It's here right now. We are living in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So what's like the thing I want to do, and it has to be like this. Like I think especially, I think that the name of the game, much like film school, lets you make a ton of stuff that's all really bad. Like you have to just make a lot of episodes of something and figure out why do you want to do this? What's the most fun version of this for you? Like, what do you get out of this? And because of Charlie Batch, you figured it out. So that's great.
Thank you, Charlie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came on the Charlie Batch thing was interesting. I picked him, and then I started doing the podcast, and I brought on a friend who had done more research on him than I had. And, like, he, in the podcast, was like, you realize that his sister was murdered. And he had this like really sad story that I like just didn't even I didn't get that far on the Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
I was like, oh fuck, I really gotta I actually have to research this shit.
I love the extensive research you did for your podcast.
I read half of the. I think at one point I was just reading the page. What I ended up doing was like, it's so dumb. I think about it now. Like on YouTube, I would have the audio of the podcast, but then I would cut like a movie together of of their highlights. And I made like a Sports Center ticker of their stats.
Wow.
So it was kind of like, I mean, it was just insane. It was like making a movie every 2 weeks. It was this insane amount of work.
Yeah.
And none of it was going into like, in the beginning, the planning of the podcast. It was just like a cool YouTube video to watch. And then I was like, oh, I should probably put more into the like information.
Right.
So then I started crafting these elaborate bits where I would like make songs and like I would have I'd have like these recurring characters that would come back into the show. And as I'm doing it, I'm like, who's fucking listening to this?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But then I'll say this too, and this is the part that was cool, was like one time I was in a forum for Army football. I'm a big Army football guy.
Gotcha. Okay.
And yeah, we played you tough 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Almost gotcha. I think it was Saquon actually busted one against us.
Yeah.
But they were like, somebody was in the forum asking like, oh, is there any Army fans that'll come on this podcast for whoever they were playing, Tulsa or something. And I sent an email, and the guy wrote back right away. He goes, Eric Helwig, you're a comedian, right? And I was like, yeah. He goes, yeah, don't you have a bit about the Rainforest Cafe? I'm like, yeah, like 6 years ago. He's like, yeah, but it's on like YouTube or something. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, I've seen it. And he starts quoting me like jokes from this bit that I posted on. Like he had found me on YouTube.
Wow.
Before I even reached out to him. He lived in fucking Arkansas.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, that's fucking crazy.
That's insane.
So it's like there are those moments where you're like, somebody does find you through the vacuum of whatever, and you're like, holy shit, like those are actual people watching.
Well, that's the nature of like, you just need to be creating content at this point. Like that's the only model that works in comedy, and that's why this is better than an open mic, and why having a repeatable format that's conversational is more important than a documentary format, because you don't know who you're going to connect with for different reasons, and how people will find you. So you're just giving yourself more opportunities to throw shit at a wall and see if more of a career can come out of it, which is a weird way for the entertainment industry to have morphed into. And a weird thing to morph into, but it's kind of the world that we live in. Make shit and throw it out there.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones.
Let's talk about it. Why? I want to talk about football so much that your audience is like, we really want to hear about Bitcoin more now. Let's have them come back to the Bitcoin part of the conversation.
We do have some Bitcoin, but very little. Like every month, we're like $5 more.
Sure, yeah.
Let's get it. Let's get this baby up.
I can be an evangelist about this thing. I've done a lot of research on Bitcoin. I actually feel very strongly that everybody should own a little bit of it because it's just not worth not. Because if it does ever follow this curve where it becomes this reserve currency in the world, why wouldn't you want to own a little piece of it? It's like gold. You can never make more than will exist in the world, and so it's a limited resource and it has a value that has proven to go up over time. Yeah. So I think that you're doing the right thing.
How similar is Bitcoin to gambling at the casino?
I don't think it's similar at all. Because gambling at the casino, you're playing against. You're playing against the house that's almost always going to win.
I recently won $1,100 at a casino.
That's pretty impressive.
So I'm going to go ahead and tell all my listeners now to go to a casino. Sure. You're guaranteed to win.
I'm going to say this. I've made a lot more than $1,100 off of Bitcoin by just buying it at a low price and waiting for the price to go up. So because I'm not... You are kind of eventually betting against the casino, depending on how deep you want to get into the nitty gritty of it. Because now that institutional investors have access to cryptocurrency through spot ETFs, with the largest financial financial institutions on earth have instruments where they can manipulate the price of Bitcoin, which is maybe not a good thing, but also a good thing depending on your perspective. Some people think the manipulation can be bad. Some people think that the more people that are buying and selling it, the better it is for the asset. Do you guys want to hear about Daniel Jones more than this?
I mean, this is, as you were talking, I was like, the Rolodex of things I didn't know was growing so fast. It was like I was watching years of the I mean, it's fine. Here's the thing. If you want to talk about it, you can talk about Bitcoin.
No, I really don't.
We don't have to.
No.
But we also can.
We can. I will finish the thought and say...
Finish the thought.
It is better than a casino because you're holding on to something that millions and millions and millions of people and certain governments in the world and certain financial companies all have decided it has value. Which means that they're all going to hold it forever. And the more people that hold it forever, the more likely the price will increasingly go up because it will be a limited resource that gets traded less and less, and that is the nature of supply and demand. That the less supply there is, the more there will be demand.
It's not worth not having it.
I agree.
That's the phrase to remember.
100%.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones, on the other hand.
Daniel Jones, you probably let him go.
Worth not having.
What'd you think about Tommy Cutlets, though?
Fun flash in the pan.
Did you ride? Did you get on the roller coaster a little bit?
Of course.
It's fun.
Why wouldn't you? When a local kid can win a football game in the NFL, like that's just a good story. That's like a good, exciting story.
He's dead now, right?
He's still playing football, apparently.
Where is he?
He's at the Giants.
He's
their third string.
Oh, nice.
He's their practice squad guy. Listen, Daniel Jones is playing decent football right now. He will always be a decent quarterback. He has the athletic skill. Will he ever be a Super Bowl winning quarterback? I don't think so. Is he somebody you could build a franchise around? I'm not sure. Everybody gave the Giants so much shit for the $40 million a year contract that he got. But 2 years later, when you look at how much money quarterbacks are making, it's kind of a good deal.
It's fine. Yeah, I've heard people talk about that too. It's like if you can get somebody before they hit free agency now, like it's almost always worth it. Yeah. Like the market, the value of contracts goes up so quickly. Just being ahead of it is worth it.
Daniel Jones is playing better than Trevor Lawrence, who has basically the highest contract in NFL football, and he's playing better football. I don't know if he's a better football player, but
you know what I think about Giants fans is like, I know you guys suck, horrifically,
sure, as people,
but you've also you don't as people as just as a team. Sure. I like New Yorkers. Okay. I've lived in New York,
sure,
but the team sucks. But you've also won 2 Super Bowls in your lifetime,
and like epically good Super Bowls, yes.
And part of me goes, you kind of have the best fan experience.
Right.
Because you get to fucking hate your team and talk shit. And there's some fun to that of being like,
especially as a New Yorker, that's all we do anyways.
Exactly. Yeah. So it fits. But then you get to go on these like insane fucking rides where all of a sudden you're like, upsetting Peyton Manning with the taint catch or whatever the fuck that was.
Yeah.
Like, so I feel like you've played all the notes on the instrument of fandom.
Yes.
You know, would you rather be a fucking Panthers fan?
No, nobody, but no Panthers fans don't want to be Panthers fans. I mean, that's the worst sports franchise.
I think at a certain point, it's not even fun to be a Patriots fan.
Sure.
Once they were winning so consistently, there was a span where Brady didn't win one for like 7 years. Those dudes were fucking miserable. They were more miserable than you guys.
Yes. Well, when you get so used to winning and then you get so bad.
Yeah.
That's the worst pain.
Then now they're in a tough spot.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe you don't.
It's one thing to be broke your whole life. It's another thing to be broke your whole life and then have a few years where like you're fucking rich.
That's what I'm doing right now.
And then you have to go back. Yeah, this is your rich years.
You're sitting on the fucking evidence. It's leather couch.
Yeah.
At first, I was like, I'll go to like a fucking family discount shop with an Armenian dude and buy a purple couch that looks like the shit the Joker's jacket is made out of. Like, I was expecting to have to buy a couch like that.
Yeah.
And then by the time couch shopping came around, I was like, nah, I had a good quarter.
Yeah.
Let's get these leather babies in here.
Hell yeah.
This is still discount furniture.
Sure.
But like
high end.
To buy furniture and then be like, oh, I don't need to like go home and fucking pray to a God I don't believe in. Things are gonna be all right.
Yeah.
Like, that's been insane. I am the giant Super Bowl right now. I'm like so appreciative of just not being broke. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I have to stop talking about it. You're worried about talking about Bitcoin on the fucking podcast. How about me talking about making money? Could anything ostracize an audience more than being like, guys, I'm doing pretty good? Like, that fucking sucks.
I promise you, when I start talking about hardware wallets, they're gonna hate me more. I promise you, I can bury.
You don't want to hate off with my with my fucking crowd.
Dude, I think that's fucking awesome. I hate when comics. I have a buddy that's a comic right now who's like, him and his wife, they both have like really good jobs and they've got approved for a mortgage and now they're looking to buy something in Los Angeles. And he's like, I can't talk about any of this on stage. I'm like, you can do whatever the fuck you
really
want.
can.
You really can.
Because the other thing is like the people that are watching you are going through life not as a comic.
Yeah.
And relate to that.
They know people that also have jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just because you don't doesn't mean they don't.
My fucking dumbass friends from college all have houses.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only people that don't have houses are people like me.
Yeah.
That were like, I'm going in on fucking movies and TV. That's taking me to the top.
Yeah.
No, everybody else that was like, I'm going to go to work in my dad's fucking lumber yard.
I know.
When I'm 22. It all worked out.
I know.
Yeah.
The when I turned 40, that whole full, like I kind of grew up. We bounced around a lot, but I mostly grew up outside of Albany, upstate New York, and I never was there long enough to really feel a connection to it. But it's the closest thing I had to like a childhood home. Yeah. And when I left at 18, I never needed to go back. And by the time I turned 40, I kind of went full circle with it, where like I thought about how nice it must be for the people that did just go home after college and go back to the same town and work at their dad's company and like start their own families. Like there's they went through a whole generation of like recreating something in their own terms, and I never thought I would think that was cool. I never thought I'd find nostalgia to that idea, but I really did, and it was really interesting. I think because you can't spend your entire life chasing dreams. Like, I think
it gets pretty stupid at a certain point. And to even keep saying chasing dreams
is terrible. I'm embarrassed for saying that about me. I wouldn't even call that what I do anymore. Now I'm just holding on for dear life.
You're just like fucking Tom Cruise like hanging onto the side of the fucking plane. He's going to knock over the goddamn thing.
100%.
Gordon, get out. Out. Oh, God, yeah.
So stressful.
Jesus Christ. That was like the lasers.
That was the Tom Cruise of Mission Impossible.
Well, I was gonna. You know what I was gonna say. Not that I want to fuck my dog, but do you remember Entrapment with Catherine Zeta-Jones, where she goes through the lasers? That was fucking great.
Yeah, I'd fuck that dog.
That's yeah.
What are we talking about?
Yo, that movie fucking woke up Michael Douglas. That knocked another 20 years. He gave another 20 years on his life. Just watching her ass slip under the fucking laser. Oh, buddy. He's being a good boy.
He's a good boy.
Yeah, I got to stop saying chasing dreams. It's also like...
I don't think I've said that in 20... I don't know how that came out of my mouth. Like, that is so far out of my lexicon, yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It was a rough thing to say on a recorded podcast. You should be fucking humiliated.
A 41-year-old man which is a co-executive producer for a Netflix documentary. I'm like chasing my dreams. Like, but
I didn't even realize you were 41. I thought you were younger than me.
I am.
You definitely look younger than me.
I only came on this podcast for that compliment.
To make sure.
100%. Yeah. I dropped it so that I could begin to distract from talking about Bitcoin.
Yeah, I'm 24. I'm fucking aging like shit. What's the Albany team? The Danes?
Oh, I don't remember.
The Great Danes?
Is that true? The University of Albany.
I think you're the Danes. Yeah.
I mean, I literally left there when I was 18. My mom moved to Manhattan when I was still in high school, and my dad moved to Australia when I went to college. So I have no connection. I haven't been
there anymore.
Yeah.
Are your parents still around?
My mom still lives in New York, and my dad still lives in Tasmania in Australia.
God damn. So how often do you go out?
Before the pandemic, I went every year. I actually brought a travel show that I produced years ago to Tasmania, just so I could put like my step siblings in the show.
That's awesome.
That was very cool. And but yeah, I've gone every. I mean, the closest thing when I like go home, that's always. I lived in New York for almost 18 years, and that's where I'd go home. I didn't have anywhere else to go. So like if I was going to go home for the holiday, I'd go to the farthest corner of the planet, to Tasmania. It's a weird existence. Great life. My dad found the great life on the other side of the world. Like my dad was 50 when he took a 3-month contract to go and work in Tasmania, and he met a woman, and he found the thing he was really meant to do with himself in his life. Like it's actually an unbelievably inspiring story. It's an incredible success story.
Yeah.
And when I was like 22, and I was like out of film school, and my job one day was I was a production assistant for Entertainment Tonight, and my job was to light an interview of Snooki's parents. And I called my dad that night. I was like, "What the fuck am I doing with my life?" He was like, "I was 50 when I figured it out, so you got time."
That's nice. What's he doing now?
He just retired.
Okay.
So my dad became a doctor late in life. He became a cardiologist, and he only worked for about 8 years in America, and then he quit practicing medicine because he thought our healthcare system was too unethical, and he didn't want to be a part of it. But he loved what he did, and he just read a travel book about Australia called "In a Sunburned Country" by Bill Bryson, which is an amazing book. And then he saw it literally in a newspaper. He saw a job posting looking for doctors to work in Australia, so he called the number, and he was like, "I'll bite. We're in Australia." And they were like, "Tasmania?" And he was like, "What the fuck is Tasmania?" It wasn't even in the book.
It's in the cartoon.
Yeah. He knew Looney Tunes and nothing else. And my dad's born and raised in the Bronx. Like the idea of going to another country was already like far outside of his lexicon. Yeah. But he kind of followed the thread, and they desperately needed somebody with his specialty. And he went for 3 months. He was so freaked out about going to the other side of the world that it was raining the day of his flight, so he just didn't get on it. That's how unprepared he was for this life transformation.
And he went there and he just never really came back.
Yeah.
Damn.
The head cardiac nurse became my stepmom, and 3 months turned to 6, and he came back for a couple months and really thought about it. If he could really take this big of a swing in his life at this point in his life, and he decided, why the fuck not? And he did, and I honestly didn't know my dad as a happy person before he moved to Australia. Like it truly changed his life.
You know, that's the reason I want my dad to move to Hawaii.
Sure.
Because, you know, my dad's my dad. Great guy, if he's listening.
What's up, Dad?
He's not. He doesn't love that I do this. But, you know, he could be a little moody, we'll say.
Yeah, I had that.
Putting it the nice way.
Yeah.
But we saw him in Hawaii. Because, like, I guess he had friends out there that had stayed with him in D.C., and they moved out there, and I guess they owed him a trip. So he was, like, staying in their guest house, and I was going out there for a comedy festival. I brought my wife. My dad was, like, happened to be out there at the same time. And he's like, "I'll pick you up." My dad's a big guy. He's like 350.
Wow.
He's a big dude.
Wow.
And I swear to God, he gets out of the fucking cab at the airport in Honolulu. He's doing like somersaults over to us. It's like he's like this. He's like light on his feet, moving around. We're doing all these activities. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? Like Hawaii, like breathed like life into my dad. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I'm like, when are you going back to Hawaii? He's like, we'll see. I'm like, go now. Dude.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Yes.
You fucking earned it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that it's so easy. I've always been a guy my whole life I've traveled. I lived in New York. The first 8 years I lived in New York, I basically sublet hopped because I was either producing international travel shows for TV or I was traveling around the world by myself with the very little money I could scrape together, and I was visiting my dad, and it was just so important to me to never get too comfortable somewhere, because I always worried that if I got too comfortable, then I would just fixate on the bad things.
Sure.
And I think that becomes an easy thing. Now that I'm old, now that I have decades of life, I see how fucking right I think I actually was, because I can see it. Like, I hurt my back last year and I couldn't really walk for a long time, and I was just stuck at home in Los Angeles, where even if I could go outside, I had to walk a mile to see another human. Like, I was living this suburban existence, which was so foreign to me, and I couldn't believe how much it was easy to get stuck in a rut, get stuck in a groove, and not know how to break out of it. Like, because at least New York City, like, first of all, New York, when you live in New York, 35% of your personality is just being a pissed off New Yorker. Like, New York occupies so much of who you are that you don't have to be as introspective. Like, you're living this hustling life, you're living a fast-paced existence. I find it to be creatively inspiring. So New York always motivated me and moved me and burnt me out. Here I find it to be the opposite. Here I have to, like, seek out creative stimulation in different ways.
Yeah, here, well, I think what you're trying to say is it sucks here.
Yeah.
And New York's amazing.
Yeah.
New York is an immediate solution to, like, mental health.
Yeah.
Because to live in New York is to, like, you'll walk out of the subway and just be like, there's a homeless dude shitting on a pigeon's head. That guy's got a gun. I remember one time I was in New York and there was, like, a terrorist attack. Like, a dude, like, drove a car up onto that was, like, a block away from where I lived. And I got a call from my mom. She's like, where are you? I'm like, I'm at work right now. She's like, well, there was an attack on, like, 48th Street. I'm like, I'm on 48th Street. Is it where? She's like, West Side Highway. I'm like, oh, I'm on the West Side Highway. She's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm just working. What? Chill out.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't even, it's just such a fuck. You're, like, immediately about to die, and you're going to face death 5 times a day.
Yep.
So it's like that occupies your thoughts, and you don't have to worry about, you know, whatever's troubling you deep down in your soul.
You don't have time because you're trying to survive the fucking F train.
Yeah, I think it's like, in a way, that's why I'm like, I could never live forever in New York. Because I think eventually you just become New York.
Yeah.
You don't even like when you die, you don't even die. You just slowly start to melt into the buildings.
Yeah.
And then you're a part of, like, the fucking MoMA. You just become an exhibit. Yeah, like, you got to go there in your fucking 20s.
Yeah.
20, that's 100%. The time. And then you come to LA in your 30s to realize it's over.
Yep.
And then you go back to Albany, probably.
That's probably not going to happen. There's nothing for me there.
You're not going to the Danes? I don't even know why I keep calling them the Danes. If you had to settle somewhere, where would you settle?
If I knew the answer to that, I probably would have done it already.
Really?
Honestly, like, my best friend is a camera guy in TV. He shot for Anthony Bourdain for the last few years of his show, and now he shoots this really successful show in Nat Geo called Trafficked, and he travels around the world for a living. And during the pandemic, he moved from New York to the town in Arizona he grew up in, which is like a little 5,000 person hippie town called Bisbee. It's fucking awesome.
But I know Bisbee.
Do you know Bisbee?
Wasn't that where the fucking, that's where that comic lives?
Doug Stanhope,
yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah. That's how I know it.
Yeah, funny.
Okay.
Great little town, and his family's there, so he has roots there.
Yeah.
So and he just travels for a living, which is oftentimes what my life looks like. But when he's done, he gets to go home, and he bought a house for an affordable amount of money, and him and his wife live very comfortably.
Yeah,
and he has a real existence where it's not constantly like, what's next? Because I'm paying a Elon Musk amount of money for the stupid apartment that I live in this dumb city. And I think that if I had a home base somewhere that I felt like I had a foundation, I'd probably have tried living there by now. During the pandemic, I was shooting an international travel show in 2020 at the beginning of the year. I was basically chasing COVID around the planet by accident. I was in Asia in January. I was in Europe in February. I was in North America in March. Yeah. And when we shut down the show, my instinct was to fly to Tasmania. Because I was watching how the world responded to COVID, and I was like, I knew America would be fucked. I knew this was going to be our life. I knew this was going to be the next couple of years. This wasn't going anywhere. I could see civic-minded nations doing everything they could to tamp this down and failing, and I was like, oh, we're fucked. We have Florida. We're never going to succeed at this. And I really thought about going to Tasmania, but I had a girlfriend in New York, and I didn't want to abandon her because I thought this would be a long, long run. And the border in Tasmania was closed for the next 3 years. And
they didn't let anybody in.
Even to mainland Australia, you had to have like a permit basically to travel. I mean, it was incredibly. The lockdown in Australia was notoriously strict, but in Tasmania they were so isolated from the world that there was May of 2020. Nobody was wearing masks. They had no COVID cases for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
They were living normal, happy existences, and I could have been trapped there instead of 2 blocks from a hospital where I could hear the ambulances every day. You know, like I was so close to making that right decision.
Yeah. Hindsight's 2020.
But that was the closest thing I had to like go home. Like if I was going to go home somewhere and settle somewhere, that's where Tasmania for a long time.
That's your Bisbee.
It is my Bisbee, except they won't let me live there because I'm an American.
Yeah. Also, Bisbee sounds like a place that would be in Australia, doesn't it? Doesn't it? It seems like they should. Yeah. Well, you just gotta make one up then. Yeah. You gotta like find your own.
I know.
Yeah. You probably got to get your girlfriend pregnant. Is she gonna watch this?
No. She doesn't want to listen to me in person. Why would she be watching this?
No, that's usually what happens. Is you probably just get somebody pregnant. And you're like, well, we got to have the kid somewhere, and it can't be here. And you look at you go to Omaha. Yeah. You're gonna be in Omaha.
She's
Where's she from?
She was born in Iran and raised in Dubai and then moved here.
Maybe you're going to Iran.
We have a great time with world politics right now. We're having a Jew and a Muslim talking world. We're having the best time. We're actually way more aligned than you think we were.
Does she still have family in Iran?
She has like most of her family is out. Most of her family has left.
My understanding is that the government of Iran is not good.
Yeah.
That is a bad thing.
You guys didn't know we were going to be diving deep into world politics.
The people in Iran are actually like we're pretty like I don't know, progressive is the right word, but like we're
for the Middle East.
They were very progressive, and then the people that came. It's not when people talk about Iran, they're not talking about like a people that have been brainwashed by their. It's like the government is what's bad, and the people are like. Fucking help us out. Yeah, is that correct?
There's always going to be a part of a population that's on board with those people in power, and to be caught up in that pitch. You know, people will always join the cult of personality or of religion or whatever the thing it is. I mean, people are certainly support the Ayatollah in Iran and the kind of the theocracy that exists there, but plenty don't, especially people that leave. You know, a lot of if you've left, it's probably because your family was persecuted for not towing the line of whatever fanaticism was being dictated at the time.
Just not being a fan of the Ayatollah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's idea. So I was right about that.
Yeah, no, it used to. What?
Nothing but net. You see that, guys? I'm pretty happy about that.
It's pretty good. You're right. You're dead on. Like what makes me sad when you think about it, and it's really America's fault. We'd certainly fostered through instilling this Shah and in our own kind of like trying to instill a puppet government that was supportive of American interests. We kind of pushed them towards this kind of this Muslim extreme type of government. But before all of that, I mean, Iran was a very liberal place. When you look at who could have been the best ally for the Middle East before all of this happened, they certainly on paper looked like it.
If you go to Iran in like the 80s, they have alternate pronouns for each other, and they're extremely woke. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, there's a lot of thruples. They were going for it.
They were LA before LA knew what LA wanted to be.
Yeah. Wow, that is interesting. You have some. You guys must have some interesting talks.
We I think one of our third date. We had a conversation about like the Western perspective on the history of modern Israel and versus like the Muslim perspective on Israel, because she was raised in Dubai, where they are taught a very different. They're taught from a very different point of view. They're taught from the Palestinian point of view. They have a very different perspective. You know, they always say history is written by the victor. So in the Western world, we get a very, especially as a Jew that's done birthright Israel, like that is that is a hard sell for the existence of Israel. So we sat down and had this great conversation about like the lens through which we learned about this part of the world.
Yeah,
that's when I know I was like, we can date, we could do this, 100%.
It's like, I mean, me and my wife are not like aligned on everything politically. Like she's much more to the left than I am, and I was, you know, my family's conservative, so I grew up like that. went to college. I was like, fuck you, Dad.
Yeah.
You don't know shit.
Yeah.
Thanks for paying for this, by the way. I'm going to disagree with everything you think for the next 10 years. So I kind of went that way, and then I felt myself kind of going back to the middle in my 30s, and also like fucking making money hurts.
Yeah.
Making money crushes your fucking liberalism so hard.
Yeah.
The first time there's actually money coming out of your paycheck, you're like, we're not eating the homeless? Are you sure? These motherfuckers should be Soylent Green. I should be putting them in my smoothies. Fuck this. So yeah, that's not helped. But no, like the ability to have those conversations and try to understand the other perspective is huge. Yeah. And also that's like all that a marriage, I'm not saying you guys are getting married or anything, but like for us, it's like
now she's listening. By the way, now she's
she fucking like woke up from a nap. No, but that's in the long term when you get into a relationship where you're married and making these huge decisions and crazy shit's going on. That's all it is. Yeah, it's like your ability to navigate really tough moments where you disagree on something. Yes, and like politics is like it's like practice. Yeah, same way having a dog is practice for having a kid. Israel Palestine is practice for one of your parents is getting sick. It all fits in terms of like just becoming a better person.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What a perfect analogy.
Yeah, that's good. All right, cool. That's the clip.
That's the clip. I love that we're talking about this relationship we've done zero effort to actually talk about the relationship. We're just using the surface of our religious cultural differences, which is kind of my sweet spot. I mean, it's what works for me. Like it's what interests me. I always call stand-up comedy social anthropology. Like all you're doing is going in front of a room full of people that are all from a different background than you, and trying to get them to think what you think is funny is funny. Yeah, and I've done it all over the world. So like I've literally stood in front of hundreds of Finnish people and tried to make them laugh based on my dumb Jew American jokes. Yeah. And like you're trying to understand them so they can understand you. And
I found the people in Sweden. I did a stand-up show in Sweden one time, and I was like, I don't even remember what it was. We were in Stockholm, and it was my friend Karen knew somebody that like ran a show there. Yeah. But I just went up and did 10 minutes and fucking bombed.
Really?
I bombed so hard. Like, they didn't laugh at anything. I was like, fuck, am I this unfunny outside of America?
Well, this was in Stockholm.
This is in Stockholm. Yeah. I wish I remembered more details. I was also, now that I really think about it, we went on a podcast before I did the show. I got fucking drunk. Mm-hmm. I might have been too drunk to really like, pay, because I also don't remember like paying attention to the comics that went on before me to be like, how are they navigating this? Like, what kind of stuff are they talking about? Like, I didn't do any of that.
What time of year was it? Because that also matters.
Oh, it was like the time of year where it's fucking dark 19 hours out of the day.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what Crazy. A depressing fucking...
Dude, I headlined a comedy club in Stockholm, and like they flew me and like were paying me a store deal and putting me up and all this stuff. And it was May 19th. And I remember because the sun came out for the first time all year the day before. So when I got to the club the day of my show, the owners were like, just so you know, the sun came out, so we may not have an audience. Because when the sun comes out in Scandinavia, nobody goes inside. Because they get such a limited amount of time a year that they were like, nope, cancel tickets, don't go to the show.
Yikes. Imagine living
that's
like
crazy.
That. Living in the dark.
Crazy. They fuck a lot, I think, is what they do. Because what else are you gonna do?
Is that really what they do?
The Finns are there's studies that argue that they're like one of the most promiscuous populations. Because they're very educated about sexual health, and they're very cold, and it's very dark.
It's hard when you're cold.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember I watched. It was like I think Conan had a travel show, and he was there.
Yeah.
And he was talking with somebody about sex, and they were like in a cafe, and that she was talking about it like it was nothing. People were walking by, and like nobody was reacting to like this very sexual discussion.
Yeah.
It's like, it didn't seem like it was a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, I've done a bunch of tours in Scandinavia and I love it because I get to be the smartest version of myself on stage because they're all so much smarter than we are.
Yeah.
Like here, I feel like this part, like when I perform in Atlantic City, I'm like, this is my dumb set. I have to do my dumbest, simplest jokes.
What's more fun?
I mean,
like being smart or you like being dumb?
Me being smart is being very generous. I just don't have to constantly dumb down. I could be multisyllabic is what I'm saying. But I can talk. I like making jokes about politics. I like making jokes about world history. I like making jokes about their culture. I love my travel show producer. Like, my favorite thing in the world is that I look at another country and write a joke that I think summarizes why they're better than us and then why we're better than them. Like, I like playing with that cultural comparison stuff.
Sure.
There's no culture in Atlantic City to compare it to.
Atlantic City's a funky place.
It's not a good place. Also, any casino you perform in, you're performing for people that probably just lost all their money. They don't want to know that you're also smarter than them. They want you to be dumb and worse and broke and miserable too. That's why stand-up is perfect and also terrible for those environments.
Yeah. We stayed in Ventnor City when we were... Last time we went to up around Atlantic City. It's like the one right next to it. And that was all right. Yeah. That felt like we're getting away from the casino vibe and more like a fun beach town.
Yeah.
But even then it was like you would get close to the border and you could
feel it.
You kind of feel the desperation of people.
Yeah. It's not an optimistic place.
No. Not at all.
Like, Vegas feels like, when you talk to people that live in Vegas, they're there to make money. And so nobody's making money in Atlantic City.
No.
Like, nobody lives there is there to make money. They're there because for generations of their family, they've been stuck.
Yeah. Or if they live there. Yeah. Or it's like old ladies with like a bucket full of coins coming to give them to the, like, just take it.
Yeah.
Enjoy this casino. Stories. You need this more than I do. It's fucking a weird vibe. All right, let me let him out real quick.
Okay. Should I just riff on Bitcoin? What should I?
Bitcoin.
Great.
You got 5 seconds.
Bitcoin is good. Or bad, we'll see.
We'll see. Hopefully good. Got $500. I need it to turn into 700. Actually, I think it's doing better than that. I think it's gone up like double in the time that we've had it.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough. I don't care. I mean, I'm literally trying to get like a guy now.
Yeah.
To like help me with finances. What do you call those guys?
Financial advisor.
There he is. Financial advisor.
Yeah.
Trying to get one of those.
Yeah.
I know a guy.
That's a good dude. Use him.
I know a guy who knows a guy.
I think
it's my stepdad, Jim. Thank you, Jim.
Hell yeah, Jim.
I gotta get that part of my life set.
Yeah.
I feel like if I have money for any period of time, like let's say 2 months, I'm like, why do I still have this money? I need to get rid of it.
Right.
I feel like it has to go.
Do you have to spend it?
I have to spend it.
Interesting.
Now, I don't want to spend it poorly.
Sure.
I'd like to invest it in something, but it needs to be spent.
Yeah.
It's not just there to be there.
Yeah. You're not a cash under the mattress, so you have a rainy day fund kind of guy?
No, I'm like feels uncomfortable to just have it.
Right.
And I don't know where that comes from or why I feel uncomfortable having a savings account.
Right.
But I don't know. It's weird. And I guess I've just lived my life that way since I was 22. Like, I probably should have like asked somebody for financial advice before now.
Right.
But now it's like, oh, there's sustained, I could save money every month. And everybody I've talked to is like, no, it's actually important that you get good at managing this.
Yeah. True.
So it feels weird to get that lesson I'm 38.
Right.
But I'm getting it now.
Getting the lesson is all that actually matters. Like,
yeah.
Especially when you're like a broke artist for a long time. Like, why the fuck would you study financial market? Like, it doesn't make any sense. I think it's I said I'm not an expert. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like, I've had I'm a freelancer, and like sometimes I've done very well, and sometimes like then a writer strike happens, and I don't work for 16 months because the whole industry collapses. Like, it's definitely feast and famine. But I also don't relate to that mentality that you have at all because I'm a Jew, and I'm always just like, how do I like have something? Like, even when I was broke, I've always lived beneath my means is really what it is. I've always been very utilitarian because I always wanted experiences over anything.
That's a traditionally Jewish thing.
Yeah.
To keep your money
to have money
and to be careful with it. I'm not saying like a bad thing.
Yeah.
I wish I had more of that. I don't have any of that.
I like to lean into the stereotypes because racism and anti-Semitism is funny. But
it can be.
I
mean, sometimes it's not the best. It depends.
First of all, the amount of my set about dating a Jew dating a Muslim is becoming overwhelming. Because what is more fun than playing into the stereotypes?
Yeah, that's true.
So, but I actually don't know how much this is Jewish versus just not having money for a long time and being and wanting to not have to compromise. You know, like I've always wanted to pursue the interests that I wanted to pursue. And if that meant I quit drinking when I was in my 20s because I wanted to save money, I didn't buy health insurance for years and years and years so I could save money, just so I could buy plane tickets so I could travel at the end of the year and go see my dad and go visit a new country and learn about the world. That was really all that mattered to me. So I have lived... like I didn't buy a bed until I was like 28 years old. Like I owned nothing for years and years and years so that I could be nimble, so that I could save money. And I mean, part of why I moved to LA was honestly I was burnt out on New York, sure, but I also wanted to force myself to actually
get a bed,
to get like a home. Like the only bed I'd bought 2 beds when I lived in New York, and they were both secondhand. They were both like whatever I could get, whatever I could afford. And I like one of the few things that I bought at full price. I negotiated the shit out of them, but at the full price from a store was like I bought like my dream bed when I signed my lease in Los Angeles, because I was like, this is something that I just don't prioritize. And I feel like at some point in life, you're going to want to have the bed that you want.
Yeah, I think it's we're on different journeys.
Yes.
Maybe we'll cross in the night, you know, like that could happen.
Yeah.
It's made, so for you it's cultural. I don't know, maybe it's cultural for me too. I don't know. I'm a quarter Mexican. Like my grandmother's Mexican. My mom doesn't save money very well. I don't even know if that's a stereotype for Mexicans.
Yeah, I don't either.
You tell me. What are the stereotypes of my people? I don't know. I don't know what it is, because my dad is very thrifty. Mm-hmm. I honestly think it might just be like I had such tension with my dad.
Yeah, that you went the other way.
That I just went the other way just to fucking go the other way.
Sure.
And that's been a big part of my maturation in my 30s, is being like, he's not wrong about everything.
Yeah.
He's not wrong just because he's my dad and he was a dick when I was a teenager. In my mind, he's a dick. Doesn't mean like I can't, you know, put oil in my car.
Right.
Just stupid shit. Like he would give me advice that was like very basic, probably good advice to take. And I would just, in my mind, be like, fuck that.
I have very opposite journey. Like my dad almost was on a pedestal for me in a lot of ways, because my dad has lived an incredible existence. Like my dad went to college when he was 16. He skipped a grade in school. He ended up getting his PhD just because this university would pay him to do so, because he was actually a rower and he was an athlete. He was like an Olympic caliber rower and was expected to make the Olympics before an injury. But my dad either wanted to be a doctor or a gym teacher, because he just wanted to wear the comfy pants. Like my dad just pursued what he wanted. He went to medical school late in life. He did all of these things broke, no money, no family support, and then he accidentally had twins while he was a second-year medical school student. So he went through this long training period where my parents were food stamp eligible, and he moonlit multiple jobs, all while getting the screen. All while doing that, he ran marathons and competed in triathlons when we were young kids. Like my dad just went after stuff, and so like I think part of me was like, no matter how painful the journey is, I'm going to do the things that I want to do. And I actually had to get to a point which is that this isn't healthy. Like I'm like making myself suffer in ways where I don't have to. I don't have to chase after everything that I want to do, no matter what I'm sacrificing in my life, because you sacrifice for things like that.
Do you have air conditioning now?
I actually don't.
Yeah, because last time we spoke, you talked about how you didn't have air conditioning. Yeah. I don't know if that was a symptom of not wanting to spend money, or
it's exclusively a symptom of the complex I live in Marina Del Rey.
Gotcha.
It gets very cold there, so there's only like 1 month out of the year where
it's hot.
You would actually really want it.
Were you off of your air conditioning, back to the family relationships? Yeah. Getting back on that's a more interesting track, by the way.
I mean, some people here want to know about the HVAC situation, and so we don't have to leave them hanging.
Are you close with your mom?
I have a good relationship with my mom, but I'm much closer with my dad.
Okay. Yeah, I was the opposite.
Yeah.
I was closer with my mom growing up. My dad was gone a lot because he was in the Army, so he was like, when I was growing up, it was a lot of like me, my mom, and like my younger siblings moving around a lot, kind of like just because of his career. And then, I mean, my dad's a great man. My dad's done amazing things with his life. My dad's lived a life of service, and that's stuff I appreciate now as an adult. But I think what happened with us was like my parents split up when I was 14. I was right in the middle of that. And when you see your parents like not at their best, it warps something. Like I got the worst of that just in terms of age.
Yes.
So it does feel like it's weird to say because it's been a long time since my parents got divorced. But I feel like some of the final levels of processing that have happened in the last like 2 or 3 years.
I'm still very much 100% processing my parents' divorce.
How old were you?
They split when I was 10, and they weren't legally divorced until I was almost 30.
Oh my God, it was given a nice wide berth there.
Their divorce was old enough to get married and go through its own divorce. I mean, it's the craziest divorce story I know.
Yeah.
And my mom made a lot of really bad choices that really impacted my life. They both clearly I've always had a really, I think, healthy perspective that it takes two people to fuck up a relationship this bad, but she made some really active choices that were difficult to process for a long time and still arguably are. So, but that stuff doesn't you don't just deal with it in the moment and then you live with these things. I still reflect on these things.
Yeah. I definitely, do you go to therapy at all?
Sure.
Yeah. I went for a couple years and then I was like, I gotta, enough of this.
Yeah.
But I do see why it's valuable. I'm not telling people not to go. I'm saying like, for me, I was like, you gotta give me some tips or tricks to just live my life.
I know.
Because at a certain point, I'm coming in here and I'm ruminating on stuff in a way that's not even helpful.
Yeah.
Like, I am definitely like, I want to deal with what I got going on, but I also like, I'm a positive person. I want to try to stay positive.
Yes.
I got fucking golden retriever energy. I'm trying to stay there.
Yeah. So,
yeah, a lot of this stuff was just like me repeating I'm not my dad over and over again. But in that, like, I'm not my dad, that means I can celebrate the good stuff and understand like some of that stuff that I don't like as much is also in me. Yeah. And like I can have a lot more like empathy for that. I didn't have that when I was younger. I was just like, this guy's making my life a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
And it's like you get older and you're like, he's still a human being.
Yeah.
That's like going through something hard and like I don't know. It's interesting to think back on that stuff now with a little more perspective and be like, how would I have handled that if I was? I mean, my dad got married and had me. He was 25, 26. I'm fucking 38. I have no kids.
Yeah.
And we're talking about it.
Yeah.
And it's fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
The idea of being like 14 years into that and then splitting up with someone.
Yeah.
I would have probably been a fucking psychopath.
Oh I completely understand the breakdown of my parents at that time. Like my parents, again, it also dragged on forever. Like there were
reconciliations and
they
breaks?
haven't spoken and exactly. But now they haven't spoken in 20 years probably.
Yeah.
But they for about 4 or 5 years they're back and forth and trying to make it happen, trying to make it work. And when they decided not to, my mom had a real piece of shit lawyer, and my dad is like this honorable guy who's also, I'm sure, the worst person to get divorced from because he's a stubborn piece of shit. But my dad lived in a 1-bedroom apartment as a fucking cardiologist. Like he got to the top of the mountain and then went all the way back down to the bottom of the mountain and gave my mom the first house he ever bought. He bought her a car. He took care of everybody and had nothing, almost like a penance to like punish himself, nothing. And my mom's lawyer just was a fucking piece of shit that wanted more and more and more. And this is the thing, like at the time, even living through this as a teenager, I had a lot of love and empathy for what they were going through and understanding their perspectives. And I'm kind of the opposite. Like I've gotten to a point later in life where I'm like, no, I'm allowed to be fucking mad that, my dad quit practicing medicine and her lawyer kept suing for half of a doctor's wages for the rest of his life. And he's like, I don't do this anymore. And it got to the point where my dad was like, you can throw me in prison, but I'm not participating in this. And then years later, he ends up living in Australia. I had to learn what extradition treaties were because my mom's lawyer kept coming after him and he kept saying, I'm not participating in this.
Oh my God.
To the point where they got his medical license in America revoked through the court systems. And then there was a warrant out for his arrest. So the reason I've been a freelancer my whole life is because my dad could not come home because he had a warrant out for his arrest and would be arrested if he landed.
Yeah, that's pretty intense. That's like a worse version of Marriage Story.
Yeah.
And Marriage Story is also pretty brutal.
Sure.
Yeah. You know the movie I'm referencing?
Sure. It's with those actors.
It's Jack Lemmon.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the original. No.
I
don't fucking know. I don't know who. Well, it's the he's Vader, but not Vader.
Adam Driver.
There he is.
Yeah. I didn't see it, but I know.
And then
movie.
she's hot, and she's fighting a purple guy in Marvel. Scarlett Johansson. I knew I'd get it.
You got there.
I gotta just think of the stupid images that I can picture.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's a bad. Didn't see the movie. I feel like I've lived enough of that movie, so I don't.
I remember watching with my wife and reacting to it like fucking Jaws. I'm like, this is the scariest fucking movie I've ever. My wife's like, what are you like? My wife, I had to like pause the movie at points, just walk around. But she's like, we don't have to watch this. I'm like, no, I gotta get through it. No, this is good. It's good. It's good. But it's like, it's intense. Yeah. I mean, it's like watching that level of fucking hate for a person. I'm like, that's something I could never see myself getting to. Yeah. Even like, I think that's also if you go through a divorce as a kid, you're like, I've joked about it with my wife. I'm like, I hope I'm a good husband, but if we ever get divorced, I'm gonna be the best fucking ex-husband you've ever had. Yes. Like, I know not to take it personal. Yeah. Like, it's hard to fucking live with somebody. Like, we all get boring. We're all full of shit. Yeah. You can be the show me the hottest fucking dude or the hottest chick in the world. I'll show you someone sick of fucking them. Yep. Spoiler alert. It's the person fucking married to him. Yeah. So like, that's just I'm not planning on cheating on my wife. Hopefully she's not either. And none of that stuff. But like, we're happy. Yeah. But it's like, if it wasn't working out, it would never go to that level of vitriol because I just know, even if we didn't have kids, it's like, it's not good for your soul to fucking hold on to that. Yeah. Seen it hurt people. I think that I have too little of a tolerance for fighting in relationships at times because I've seen it and where it goes. And so part of me is like, if we can't deal with problems well now, there's no runway here. I've got buddies that are in relationships where it's like 3 months in and they're like, I'm like, how's it going? They're like, I don't know, man. They're just scratching their head. I'm like, look, it shouldn't feel like you're fucking solving an algebra problem. Yeah. Like, if it's not easy in the beginning, then what the fuck? Your life isn't going to get easier as your loved ones start dying and your dreams start crashing into the fucking sand. Like, it better be happy up front. Yeah. At least. Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
How you feel? What do you think the chances you get? Never mind. Just fucking be the worst piece of shit ever.
Did she pay you for this?
Nah. How long have you been dating for?
We've been dating about 8 months. So
okay, that's nice. That's nice. Do you, not even talking about this relationship, but like, do you see yourself being married and stuff?
It's never really been a priority to me. Go figure. With that backstory, I want that life partner, whatever that looks like. Like, it's a contract more than it is an important institution for me. Yeah. Like to me, marriage matters more from a legal perspective than it does. Like, I don't need a document to say this is important to me. I know I choose people to be in my life very, very strategically. Not even strategically, but I make active choices. The people I want in my life.
All the women are getting so wet listening to you say this, right? I choose the people in my life strategically. They're like, oh, that's what I like to hear.
I sound like a fucking marriage lawyer. Like, I feel like no, yeah.
I mean, here's the thing, man. Like, when we got married, I did not want to get married. Yeah. But I definitely wanted kids and I wanted a family. Yeah. So I was like, well, we'll just have kids out of wedlock. Yeah. Like, what's wrong with that? Yeah. I'm not going to be a piece of shit. Yeah. Yeah. And like, I wouldn't leave you unless things were bad. And my wife was like, douchebag. Yeah. Here's what's gonna happen. Yeah. You need to make a decision. Yeah. I love you, but like you can't. Like, we were thinking about moving to LA. Yeah. And I was like, we'll just go over there and kind of see what happens, right? And she's like, that's not gonna work for me.
What you're describing is exactly what I've always been like. But I also learned the lesson years ago that like, just because I think that way doesn't mean you get to live that way.
No. And the other thing is like, I remember, I'll say this. You take whatever you want out of this or don't. But like, I was terrified to get married. Sure. And so when the marriage was coming up, there'd be like little things I would throw like a fucking, not a hissy fit, but I would just be like oddly defensive over. Mm-hmm. Like, I remember like, we were like, we're going to hire a videographer for the wedding. I was like, fine, but like, I don't want them to edit the video. My wife's like, what? I'm like, I don't want them to edit it. They can just send us raw footage. She's like, okay. They already pay for the edit. I'm like, I don't care. I don't want an edited video of the wedding. I don't need an edited video to tell me. Yeah. She's like, okay, fine. We'll have raw footage of our wedding. Like little things like that. And then as the actual wedding would come, like we'd get to the point where it's like time to send out invites, time to do that. Like all those little benchmarks, I'd be like ready to do it a day before we did it. Like I would just get to the point where it wouldn't give me like fucking anxiety. Yeah. And then when we actually got married, it was the best fucking day of my life.
That's awesome.
And like it's surprisingly was the best day of my life. Yeah. I was expecting it to feel weird, to feel awkward, to be like looking at my parents out in the like have mixed feelings, and I had none of that. It was like, but I do think thank God I did a little bit of therapy before we got to that point. I was talking about my feelings on a weekly basis, and like, you know, obviously I picked a great girl, so like it worked out. Yeah. But it's there for you if you want it. It's not a million. It's not as far as it might seem, because it felt very far away from me until I started doing it.
I mean, I think again, your perspective obviously shifts and grows and evolves, hopefully, as you age. And mine on this subject matter has changed dramatically. I mean, like when I started dating in my 20s, there was still a warrant out for my dad's arrest. Like, you think I'm gonna be pro marriage? Like, it was a hard sell, you know.
I always thought I had a tough row to toe, but you might beat me with that. There was a warrant for my dad's arrest. Jesus.
Our color scheme is going to have to be black and white stripes if you want him coming to this wedding.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, man, that is something else.
Yeah, it was a thing. Yeah. And so like I'm very aware that I'm not anti-marriage at all. I love weddings. I love going to weddings. I love the celebration of love, and I love watching people choose people to spend I think it's all wonderful and beautiful. I've never put it on a pedestal in any capacity, and I fully anticipate it being a part of my life at some point. But if I was with a partner that's like doesn't matter to me, I'm okay with that too. I always have felt that the wedding. I mean, the wedding is for for women more than it is for them. Like a mile. Yeah.
I got a buddy right now getting married, and he's like very actively participating in the planning. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Stop. He's like, well, what? I don't get a say in the invitation. I'm like, you have no say. Shut the fuck up, dude. Stop.
I think it's cool.
Who is inserting themselves in? It's the woman's fantasy to get married. Back out.
Maybe it's a good sign that he wants to plan a party together. Like maybe he's into that kind of thing,
he likes planning party. It's my brother Christian. I'm just naming people. Just naming. No, he's so much more involved in his wedding than I was. And like again, like I don't know if part of it's like my own history, but I think part of it's just I think most guys are that way. Yeah, I think most women want guys to not be that involved. Yeah. So, I don't know.
I don't either. I think I have a twin brother, and he just bought a house with his girlfriend. It's like his most serious relationship in his life by a lot. But she's been married twice before, and I think he loved that because she does not need to get married again. And so,
and he's like,
great. My brother does not. We've processed our family stuff very differently. We're very different people.
You guys tight though?
We have a good relationship for sure. Yeah. We've always been night and day different. It's so funny because like we could not have gone in different paths in life. Like I've always pursued being uncomfortable because that's how I learned about the world, and that's what was most important to me. And he's always pursued comfort because that's how he's comfortable. So like he's an engineer. He found a job and a career that was stable, and he wanted that life that was very simple. And I've always pursued an adventurous existence and one where I can learn about the world and myself and all this nonsense bullshit that makes
You're the gay brother.
Yeah. Yeah. But like also we got to a point in the last couple of years where we've kind of come back together where like he realizes that there's more to life than like the life that he's lived, and he wants to like slowly dip his toes into being a little bit more adventurous, and I want to be more comfortable because I'm fucking exhausted. And I've lived a life with complete instability financially, everything, you know. It's like freelancing is a nightmare in your 40s. Like the joy and fun that you can have with it when you're young is great. And I think if you can pull it off and if you can be very successful with it, that's great. And I appreciate the value of it. But the last few years, the tumult of this industry in particular has made it certainly less appealing. And so I look at my brother for the first time in life being like,
makes sense.
Well done.
Yeah, I see it too with my siblings because they all have that more comfortable lifestyle. And I'm like, for a while, I was like, I could never do that.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I should have done that a little bit more.
Time
or
ago.
at least like we should have talked more about stuff I was doing, you know? Where did your brother settle?
San Diego.
That might be your fault.
It's there's I mean I certainly moved.
You big military town guy?
He's not either. My brother's a fucking Comic-Con guy.
Okay,
he's the other side of the coin.
All right.
But yeah, I don't know. Like when I moved to Southern California, it wasn't just to like LA and it wasn't actually LA and industry at all. It was just where I had the largest network of people outside of New York.
Yeah.
When I decided to move and leave New York, and it was also one flight closer to my dad, and it was a lot closer to my brother. So it was just trying to like rein it in. Like we don't need to span the entire globe as a family.
Yeah, I guess if you're going to Australia, you go over California.
New York, LA to Sydney or Melbourne.
How far is the flight?
To mainland Australia, it's about 15 hours.
And you travel back in time? Are you going back in time, or are you going?
You travel back in time when you go from Australia to LA. So if you leave Australia,
you're traveling into the future.
Yes, you lose a day. So when I was 21, I studied abroad my last semester of college because my dad had already moved to Australia. And there was a girl that I was studying with whose 21st birthday was on February 10th. And she got on the plane on February 9th and landed on February 11th. Her 21st birthday never happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
It's awesome. I think it's a great way to do it.
Yeah.
But when you come back, if you leave at like 10 a.m. from Sydney on February 7th, you land at like 7 a.m. on February 7th. So you literally land earlier than you left on the same day.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. We gotta go. My wife wants to do that part because there's like Australia and then New Zealand's even further out.
New Zealand's actually technically a little closer. And they're both great countries. I always say if you're picking one, do New Zealand.
Yeah.
Because it's just more grand. I mean, it depends what you like to do. If you just want to get drunk with people with dumb accents, both work.
She wants to go see fucking Lord of the Rings shit.
That's New Zealand.
Yeah.
I mean, it is beautiful. New Zealand is like quirky and weird. Australia is kind of like 50% America, 50% England. Like it's an interesting hybrid in terms of its culture, and it's great, and people are great, and I love it there. But New Zealand is like quirky, weird, more sheep than people. So like it's just gotten more of a sauce that's unique. It's a different cuisine.
It's a special sauce.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what they put on the Big Mac.
Exactly.
Love it. That's great. I think New Zealand's in the cards before Australia. I mean, if we got to choose.
Yeah.
Also, I got a remote job. If we get my wife a remote job, I think we can start doing more of the fucking.
That's the
let's
fucking
get on
dream.
a plane. That's the fucking dream.
Yeah.
My cousin was doing it 8 years ago. Yeah, he'd be like, we talked to him. He'd be like, "Yeah, I'm at the fucking beach."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, we're working."
Yeah.
Him and his wife, remote jobs. They're like early on that train.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah, that fucking rules."
I ran a production company for about 5 years in my early 30s, and my client was Viacom, so what I would basically write and produce promos for like Comedy Central, and
is that how we met, by the way?
How did we meet?
Because I did a thing for I can't remember if that's where we met. I don't remember.
I think we just met through a
comedy.
Yeah, I think we met through. I think somebody introduced us or something. I can't remember.
I can't remember
How the fuck
either.
did we meet?
I don't know.
Was it that glory hole?
Well, that wouldn't have been a full meeting.
No, I mean, I do yell my social security number when I come, so you could have found me.
Yeah, I usually try to jizz my full name.
Instagram handle.
I can't remember where we met.
I can't either.
Yeah,
it was in New York.
It had to have been in New York.
Yeah. It was
because you were definitely doing stand up in New York.
Yeah, for sure.
And we were doing shows. I think we probably just met doing stand-up.
Totally.
Yeah.
We 100% met doing stand-up.
Yes.
Maybe you had a co-producer that I knew or somebody, I don't know, who knows.
There was a time when I was booking stuff like that a lot.
Yeah.
But that time
it's past.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
It was a season of my life.
Sure.
Yeah. I fucking hijacked your story though.
I forget which story.
You were like,
oh,
I ran up. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I built I ran a production company full time, and then I also freelance as a producer on shows. But as long as Viacom was like offering me contracts, I never said no. And I built a remote long before COVID, post-COVID. I built like a remote workflow with my edit team so that I could be anywhere. And as long as I had Wi-Fi, I could produce and write and produce through this company. And I did that for years. I would be in Tasmania and they'd offer me a job, and I would just get up at 3 a.m. for random calls, but mostly just do it all remote. I produced promos from like Colombia. I was in Cuba where I had to find Wi-Fi one time. Like I would just get to do this thing anywhere that I was, and it was the greatest feeling in the world. And the fact that I stopped doing that to do fucking stand-up comedy is the stupidest sentence I've ever said in my life. It's great. It's if you can make that work, you got to take advantage. The biggest thing you have to do is take advantage of it. Like anybody that just works remote, and just like my brother mostly works remote, but he doesn't take advantage of it because he doesn't care. He's happy to be home and comfortable.
Fucking get out there, man.
Go, yeah.
Yo, fuck San Diego.
Yeah.
Go check out Panama.
He would hate it.
Yeah.
He would hate Panama.
We did Mexico for our honeymoon recently. We loved it. There were definitely infrastructure stuff. We were like, that's a way we could have died just now.
Sure.
There were a couple bus rides where we're like very close to the edge of that highway.
Yep.
No guardrail.
I've done that in so many countries.
Driver looks sleepy.
Yeah.
This is scary.
Yeah. Second nature to them. They've done this road 1,000 times.
I remember one time, the scariest one we ever had was in New York. When we used to bolt bust it a lot back in the broke days. And I would always try to sit in the very front because I get motion sickness. So I'd get that first seat on the bus, like right above the stairs, looking out. You can see the highway. And me and my wife are sitting in the front seat, and the bus driver, just like an old guy, goes, all right, everybody's on. Starts to get up on walk up the stairs, falls down and goes, ah! Oh! And we're like, what the fuck? He's like rolling around, like yelling for like 20 seconds, like just on the stairs coming up the bus. And then he like pulls himself into the driver's chair. He just sits back. He goes, oh, I'm so tired. Like into the fucking Lincoln Tunnel. Swear to God, dude.
Wow.
We were just like, oh, this is the end.
Wow.
This is how you die.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was once in Vietnam, and it's a very popular thing to do. I don't know if this is true. This is 20 years ago, but I was like, you hire like a local guy with a motorbike to like give you a tour, and I went to like a tourist location that was closed for the day, and so I didn't know what to do next. And a bunch of these motorbike guys were pitching me, and one of them was like charismatic, and he was charming, and he was silly, and I was like, you're my guy. Where do you want to take me? I'll fucking go. And I got on the back of his bike, and he turns around and he goes, don't worry, you're safe with me. And all I could smell was vodka. He was so drunk, and then he fucking floored it into traffic. Like, I'm talking full speed into full speed, full highways full of other motorbikes, honking and screaming at people like a maniac. And we got to the first location, and I was like, it's as good as anybody else. And I spent the whole fucking day with the drunk guy.
Yeah, dude. I mean, the other maybe everybody else is drunk too. Maybe that's part of the culture.
Maybe
you just don't know.
You don't know.
When we did Thailand for our first honeymoon that didn't go well. Mexico was the redo. Thailand was the first one.
Why did your honeymoon not go well?
My wife had a medical thing that happened.
Gotcha.
So we only got to enjoy like the first 3 days of the first honeymoon. I'll tell you off cam.
Great.
I think most people listening I probably already talked about it when she was on the podcast. It doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
First honeymoon sucked.
Yes.
But the first night or the second night we were in Bangkok, we did the tuk-tuk. Mm-hmm. Those motherfuckers are like, I feel like they're diving under the wheels of 18-wheelers.
Yes.
Like, that was insane.
Insanity.
And you're like, the ground is right fucking here.
Yeah.
And you're moving.
Yeah.
That was fucking crazy.
Dude, I love Southeast. I love Asia. I love culture shock so much because it's like my first time I was in Thailand when I was 22. It was my first time in Asia. And I was just blown away by how people walk differently on the sidewalks. Like the way people move through a city that's that densely populated. It's a different planet than we're used to. Like, and all of these things, the way people drive, the way they move, it's just a factor of population density and how people cope and how they process. You don't get anywhere if you don't fucking honk and go under the 18-wheelers. Like I've been in taxis in India on 6-lane highways, where it's 3 lanes this way and 3 lanes that way. And I've had my taxi driver overtake not 1, not 2, but 3 lanes into oncoming traffic just to try to speed past the other people speeding past, the other people speeding past, and you are cutting it by inches to cut back over before the oncoming traffic comes. I've had that happen so many fucking times. It's
crazy.
Like normalized to me.
Yeah.
They are maniacs.
Maniacs.
I fucking love it.
You ever seen the videos of like the Japanese businessmen like throwing themselves into subway cars that are too fucking crowded?
No. Like crowd surfing?
Yeah, no, like they're packing people into trains.
Yeah.
And there's like a guy that has like a broom. He's like fucking chimney sweeping them into the fucking car.
Yes.
Crazy.
The best.
Just dudes are just laying in their business attire and briefcases. Just wild.
Yeah.
I mean, New York is only a level below that, but, you know.
There's still so much more. You could be cramming people in with a broom and it's still more civil than New York City subway. I mean, there's just so much etiquette to life in Japan. Like, if you talk at normal volume, if we're having this conversation on the subway in Japan, in Tokyo, you're the asshole.
Yeah,
this is fucking loud. Take it down a notch.
Take it down a notch.
We are.
Sometimes I'm talking to my wife. I'm like, "Can you even hear me?" She's like, "This is a normal voice." I'm like, "Oh, not this."
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a. Do you think I'm bad? Listen to my fucking dad in the car. My dad, he did armor in the army, so like tanks.
Yeah.
So he's fucking like deaf.
Yeah.
So and he's bad with technology. So like, I was literally with him 2 weeks ago, and he's got like the plug in the address on your dash on your car, but it's the old version where you have to like yell it into your car. And I swear to God, he's like screaming directions into his car, like a fucking tank commander going into battle. Like it's so jarring. Like he's already a loud talker, and I'm a loud talker, and he's like, "Oh, hang on, let me just get this real quick." 5, 7, 4, happy heart. Wait. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? You can just type it in right here. Let me just type it in for you. He's like screaming at the top of his lungs. Crazy. It's
insane.
I don't think he would do well in Japan.
No.
We gotta go, dude. Look at this fucking. We went 30 minutes over.
Wow, holy shit.
Yeah, but this is because we had a nice convo.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gave me one of these.
One of those.
That was nice.
Yeah. We barely scratched the surface of Bitcoin.
Yeah, we got to do a part 2.
Yeah,
we got to get you back.
100%.
I mean, I should probably start getting your schedule now so that I can get you on in the next 3 years.
Let's do it. Let's put something on the books for 2027.
You should, well, before we go, you should tell people where they can find you. And this is, by the way, coming out tomorrow.
Great.
So if you have shows now, you can fucking pitch them now.
Okay. Yeah, listen, if you go to my Instagram at Justin_Herman, that is the conduit through which all information is channeled. That was the weirdest way to say follow me on Instagram I've ever said in my entire life.
That is which you shall findeth me. Yeah, all right.
Am I Bitcoin? Am I fucking a computer program? Yeah, Justin_Herman. On October 19th, I've got a great show in Venice. I run 2 shows in Venice, and on October 19th, we do the parking space show. Information's on my Instagram. Super, super fun local show. And then I run a show called Kinky Comedy on October 26th, also in Venice. Great backyard show, both oversell out every time. So fun. So if you like comedy and anything that I had to say,
go to the show.
Thank you so much.
That's the end of the sentence.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing it, man.
Appreciate
and we'll have you. I will have you back. I almost said we'll have you back. Like there's a fucking team of people. It's me and the dog.
Yeah. The dog's standing by.
He probably is actually.
Hit record. Yeah.
Great chatting with you, man.
Appreciate you, brother.